Italy versus Wales. Now, if you're Italian fans, you're delighted. If you're Welsh fans, the misery continues. What now for Wales, Coley? Like, to be fair, I don't know why people... I mean, apart from Ant Watson, when we did our preview, that seemed to think that Wales were going to go there and win, which he just seems to keep tipping Wales that they're going to do something. I don't know what evidence he has, because they've lost... over more than a calendar year now. They've gone without winning a game, and but he thought they might win it. But the Italians, rightly so, showed they were too good, and ultimately the scoreline sort of flattered Wales in the end with 2 late tries, because up till then Italy were well in control of the game. To be fair,
let's credit Italy. They're no longer the sort of... They're a legitimate side. I know they have their ups and downs sometimes, like they get, like the World Cup, they got stuffed by about 90 points, but like the way they've built, the way they play, they have a style that suits them. Their forwards are aggressive, like the set piece got really stuck into Wales. They've got some good carriers. And they say centre partnership works really well, and they've got some like magic in the back line. So they've actually got a style that really suits them and is almost their own. And I think that's what Italian rugby is. I'm happy because I think, for a long time when we first started playing, so a long, long time ago, Italy was basically like scrum maul, attritional rugby, kick your threes, and they had nothing else. Whereas now they've sort of developed this style of how to play, and it's their own style and their own identity. And I think it's, it will cause teams issues and has caused teams issues. And it's credit to them and the Italian system with, Treviso, Zebre, all those kind of teams, how they play and what they do. So credit to them. Wales, on the other hand, what do? They just got to keep going, haven't they, really? I think, they've got 3 more games this championship. They've decided they're going to play a certain way, which is this possession-based style, and they need to stay on that path. They've got a lot of young guys playing. The only thing you don't want is the young guys. It's kind of like, you get them test experience, but you want them also to get the right test experience in the fact that they want to be winning games or being in close games, and you don't just want blowouts, because you don't want these young guys just almost losing the joy of playing for their country. I mean, there's always going to be a joy, but when it's just sort of like, oh, we're going to get beaten, it kind of saps the energy out of you, and you just don't want this generation of Welsh players to have to go through that. But then they might appreciate winning more if you go through that, but you just don't want to get used to losing. You don't accept it, and that's the thing with Welsh, and I think, that's what they've got to work, but they've got to keep going what they're doing. I think, if I'm Wales, I'm like, right, next week, or next game, let's kick for the corner and maul everything, because our maul's really good and scored us 2 tries at the weekend. The rest of it, we'll just try and work out how we get to a maul.
Yeah, literally. How do we get down to field position so we can maul, to use our strength? But you look at the Sage Insights, and it shows that Wales did move the ball more once again. Italy had 59 passes and Wales had 129. But same as last week, failed to really do much with it. The conditions were horrendous, to be fair.
But it goes back to what we said before. Ireland, Scotland, Wales week before, like, people become, the media become obsessed with like, oh, easy on the eye rugby. We want to, pass the ball. We want to see multiple phases. And yeah, we'd all love to see it if it's going somewhere, but just passing for the sake of passing a ball, or playing shape for the sake of playing shape to not go anywhere, like just to be in shape you play shape to reload, to get momentum, to go somewhere with it. Like Wales have proven in the past couple of weeks, they've had possession, they've had shape, but they're not going to go anywhere with it or be threatening with it. It's pointless in some regards. So yeah, it's just an interesting, that's kind of, I think these kind of games show facts for the viewers or people, rugby fans who sort of think that, I want my team to be free flowing, and we all do, but at the same time, there is a risk reward, and you want a team that's effective and efficient with the ball, like Ireland, who had, who's had X amount of carries but scored a load of tries. So that's, how you want to play the game, and that's what people should remember, I think, when they ask teams to be, we want loads of possession.
I can't imagine being in that change room at the moment. And like I say, I had Italy to win. I thought that they would win, and they did. I'm not good at predictions, but I got that one right, because nothing suggests that Wales really have got the result in them at the moment. And you're saying like you double down on what you do, and you keep moving the ball and everything like that, but you look at it at some point, if you're in that as a playing group, I don't know, there's a few senior players there, at some point you probably do go, hang on a minute, like this is not fucking working. Like we need to, like Howley, Like, I know you want to play this certain way in multi-phase and run this like structured attack, but it ain't working, Rob. Or Gats, like it isn't working. Whatever, you know, Gats, like Warren Ball, they called it back in the day, of just like try and outpower you in terms of just run these structured plays, come around the corner and outmuscle you. Like, it's not working for that team. It worked for the team when they had like big ball carriers, your Jamie Roberts in the midfield, Jonathan Davies in the midfield, your George Norths on the wing, your Cuthberts, your guys like that, you know, your Alan Wynns coming around the corner, your Cannonball Ken coming around second phase. But it's not, doesn't suit what they've got. So therefore, like, I don't know, I'd just be getting pissed off if I was a senior player in there, because you either stick at it, which is fine, but when it's been over a calendar year since a win, at some point you go to the coaches like, there's got to be something else we can get after here, because it's clearly not fucking working.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's probably, when they review their games, they'll look at it and go, we're creating opportunities here, we need to execute, and so I'm sure there'll be some belief in the system they're doing. But as you say, yes, it's tough, but then you kind of like, you're now 2 weeks into the tournament, you've got 3 games left. It's going to be quite hard to, well, I suppose you've got this sort of, you've got 2 fallow weeks in a game. In those 3 weeks, are you going to throw out everything you've done and try and turn course and turn the ship around and do something totally different? Or are you going to go, actually, let's keep going what we're doing? And I would, in some regards, suggest they'll keep doing what they're doing because of the coaching stuff they have and the way they've decided to play. Like, they almost have to.
There'll be a lot of noise about after Wainwright's try, you know, what else suddenly looked a little bit better, and they'll be like, why didn't they do that, you know, from the start and move the ball like that? But I just think Italy were largely, like, when you got a dominant pack like they did, they had dominant tackles. Actually, look at the Sage Insights. Italy had 14 dominant tackles and 5 turnover tackles. So, like, they weren't allowed to do that from the start because Italy were dominant. And I want to touch on Coley, just coming back to quickly on the Welsh scrum. Like, Italy, as you said back in the day, was that sort of built on a foundations of a strong scrum and the pack, really, and didn't have much in the back line. You're now looking at the Italian back line, you're thinking, right, there's some star-studded, like, gold dust players there. We saw a lovely try off that scrum with the grubber through, Capuazzu getting in there, getting in the corner, great try. But it's being complemented what is like looking like a very, very strong scrum and set piece team now, Italy, where they've almost got both sides. So is it Italy's strength or Wales's weakness when you look at the set piece? How do you see it in the scrum?
I would say it is a bit of Wales's weakness. I think Italy are efficient, and I think they have some good players. You know, Fischetti, the loose head. You know, he played at Irish, and he's got several caps. Ferreira, the tight head. Again, they're great players. I don't think they're dominant scrummagers, but they are solid. Neat. Neat's not a very nice word, but they're efficient in what they do. You know, they're good with the ball in hand, but the scrum they're strong, but they're probably not a dominant scrum in that regard. I think Wales, yeah, it cost them. Because there was a couple of collapse scrums in the first half where just let Italy the pressure off. I think, you know, there's that first part in the first half where Josh Adams, I think, knocks the ball on in the process of scoring, or trying to score rather, a kick. So there's a scrum. It's a perfect position to put Italy under pressure on their own 5-metre line. Scrum, make them exit, then you get the ball back. And what happens? Wales collapse the scrum, and Italy exit, and basically end up going up the other end of the field. So, yeah, it's a weakness. Can they improve it? I know they've got a couple of injuries. But, again, it's probably the Welsh probably trying to play away from that in regards to, you know, not have the scrum the way they want to play, the possession-based game they want to play. They probably don't want to play. The strength isn't the scrum, so they probably want to avoid those bits. And if they can, just get by and not make it a mess, but win their own ball and let the opposition have their ball. But at no point sort of, you know, if it's a 0-0 on the penalty count, they'll be happy with that.
But the thing is, though, Coley, like, that is, you know, once as a team, we've been in teams. Once you sniff blood in terms of a set piece, like, you preview that going into it. So you almost, if you leave the door open for teams that make you think that, oh, you're vulnerable in certain areas, especially when it comes to scrum, like, you're inviting it for teams to proper go after it. And that's a concern, because it's not a quick fix. Like, it's not a quick fix, is it? It's not like kicking game or accuracy or something like that. You can kind of fix up that fair amount, but the set piece is such a contest that you can't hide from it. So if you look vulnerable there, like they're going to have more of the same for the next 3 games.
Yeah, and I think also it probably plays into your own back's ability to play. You know, if your scrum's under pressure, sometimes you think, don't throw the pass or the offload because it was a knock on, you know, with potentially 50-50 territory for penalties. So, you know, it does have an effect on how you play the game. I do think Wales will probably end up being all right because, as I said before, I think international referees don't really want to referee. I mean, it was Matt Carley at the weekend who refereed that game as Premiership referee, and he, you know, the Premiership referees referee the scrum. Some of the other referees from the Southern Hemisphere, I don't think do. I thought you said like the England game, there's a fair few playaways, and I'm not criticising referees. I think that's, you know, they want the game to play and they want the game to flow, so they sort of play away from the scrum. So if you might find Wales, yes, they got caught at the weekend, but actually on the balance in the rest of the tournament they'll be all right because, as I say, the set piece isn't as highly valued as in refereeing terms it is in other competitions.
I want to touch on Garbisi and Tomaso Allen at fullback, and just how many teams now are looking at this sort of distributing playmaking fullback. So another guy that's played 10 that happens to be at fullback, it's just coincidence, but those guys sort of pulled the strings once again. It seems like teams are really trying to, I don't know whether it's because there's like a lack of distributing centres in the moment in the world, or it's just the fact that teams want to use more of a fullback that can do that playmaking ability further out. But those guys pulled the string especially well, given the weather, like I say, was absolutely atrocious.
There aren't many, thinking about it in general point, there aren't that many 10-12s in the game right now. You know, you think of like your Gittos of this world, and
Geordie Barrett's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking of. That's what I say, almost 12s becomes like a specialist position, and yeah, previously you'd have sort of 10-12s interchangeable in some regards. You know, in classic England teams, you had like Mike Catt, could do both. Yeah, no, that's kind of, not to say gone out of the game, but there aren't many 10-12s available.
You think of like Marnonu, Gitto, Mike Catt, even like...
well, even Aaron Major, like, you know, talk about back in the day, but Major was 10-12, played, you know, yeah.
You know, Tuipulotu is obviously one, and he's obviously injured at the moment, but he's one. But when you start listing it through, Aki is sort of one, but, you know, your Matt Tamua, he was sort of one that could do it, but there isn't many. Like, there really isn't many in the world right now that's like 10-12. Obviously, Owen Farrell. But you look across the Six Nations, it seems to be, like I say, there seems to be a trend of having this fullback that can play
like
make
10-15,
and control it. Yeah, it's like a 10-15.
Rather than 10-12, yeah. And so they tend to become sort of specialist in, you know, you have your physical centre and you have sort of a runner or a sort of more of a wider player, almost like a 13-14 in some regards. A lot of teams are going down that route.
Maybe we should do a podcast on it, Coley, about the evolution of positions and the way that they've changed.
Trends in the modern game.
Trends in the modern game, exactly. We have a question from Alec, because I know your answer. I know exactly what your answer would be to this. Question from Alec. What are the feelings when you're excited for a game all week and you open up the curtains and the weather is shit and the ball is greasy?
What are my feelings? Well, obviously it depends who you're playing. But no, it's you. I think you just think tactically. I think you realise that if you are in possession, sometimes, depending on how bad the weather is, you're a team that probably doesn't want to have the ball. Defending might be a bit more optional because, you know, it's kind of the game. You can almost ramp up line speed if you're in defence because catching the ball becomes so hard. Well, not hard, but you have to concentrate more on catching the ball. If you can get line speed and put that skill set under pressure, you're more likely to get turnovers or possession of the ball. And similarly, if you're attacking, sometimes you don't want to be playing too much, but if you are, you know, a forward carrying an arrow shape off 9, you need the ball earlier, you need to probably be a little bit deeper, potentially use sort of footwork as opposed to catching the ball at the line. So there are tactical bits in the game that you have to think about. Similarly with, you know, the kicking game, if the ball's going up in the air, there's potentially more scrums, like knock-on scrums, so therefore your scrums has to be better, your liner has to be as sharp as it can, and yeah, you think tactically about the game, and I guess probably some regards you think it's going to be more physical, but sometimes teams just don't want to have the ball and both kick. But it depends who you're playing.
Yeah, and you should be able to adapt, you know. If it's really crap conditions, you're thinking, right, put the ball in behind, find grass, put it on the floor, try and bring the fullback forward onto it. If you can hack it through, as you say, Coley, sometimes you're better off without the ball. Be happy defending. So if you're happy defending, make sure you're defending 80 from your line. So how do you defend 80 from your line? You go minimum rucks and you hoof it up there. If you've got a good scrum, happy days, because you can go to the aerial contest, create a knock on, that's fine. You go to a set piece, bring them into that battle. And essentially the game changes. But if you've got, it all comes back to a couple of things. You need a good set piece, and you need a decent defence. And if you've got those, if the weather comes down, it shouldn't matter, because ultimately you can bounce back to the game. Even if you have the ambition of going, we're going to try and go multi-phase today, but if you've got a great set piece and you've got a really solid defence and the rain comes in, you can just flip it and go, right, we're going territory. I'm going to try and beat them up 80 metres from our line, and we'll win penalties. We'll go hard at the ball. We'll squeeze them at set piece and draw out penalties there. And essentially what you want is the other team chasing the game in crap conditions and having a 10, 12 point buffer. And it makes it very, very difficult then for opposition to try and run you down in those conditions.
Ben, final question. Can you say anything to reassure the Welsh fan base?
No, apart from, the Principality is still one of the greatest stadiums in the world. So that's a positive. And there'll probably be some changes at the end of this tournament. So there is some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So that's all I've got for you, to be honest with you. But right now, I ain't got anything for you, and I'm sorry. I'm sad for Welsh rugby that it's got to this stage, and I'm sad for there's a lot of talented players in that squad. You look at your Jack Morgans, the way that he goes about his business. I'm a big fan of him, and it's sad to see. You want more from Welsh rugby. You want more for that team, and even from an Englishman. Genuinely, you want Wales to be competitive, and right now we're not seeing it, and it's bloody sad. I'll be honest with you. Rugby needs Wales to be really competitive and good, and I feel at the moment, looking in from the outside, they're not being set up to do that. So I suspect change will happen at the end of this tournament.
That's quite a strong answer.
Pretty strong.
But if you're watching this on YouTube, then click like and subscribe and leave a comment and see if you agree with Ben's thoughts. And if you are a Welsh supporter, what positives are you taking from the team?